Good morning, the COT data video for the week beginning the 19th of June 2023. We can see the dollar's treading water. We haven't gone negative. We are doing what I suspected would happen. We're just sort of going sideways. Inevitably, it's going to grind higher over time, but it's going to take a while before we get the Euro USD sell. It's going to take many weeks, perhaps 4-5 months before we get the sell. We can see how we're going to inevitably get the sell, but it's going to take some time. There's the buy, and this is where the Euro USD spot pair. This is where we were negative, and we were at parity, and we breached parity, and it's all gloom and doom for the euro. And then we had the Euro USD buy, and that would have been a fantastic trade had you have held. And we are more negative than the week prior, but we are quite strongly, in positive territory. We have come quite a bit off the highs, though. It's worth noting. 151. So, like I say, we're positive. We could just be retracing, perhaps, and wait for the next leg higher. So there's the euro. Remember, the yen needed to have support, and currently minus 111, 104. We're just teetering on that support there. And there's the euro yen buy, and that would have been a fantastic trade as well. Looking for crossovers, so the yen is possibly okay as long as we don't breach 111,000, 104, 103. So that's possibly not too bad for the yen. We just had to hold that. We might still break it, but it looks like we just went a little bit sideways from the week prior. If we break that, then I'd be quite worried, especially if you've got a yen exposure. They were saying that the implied volatility across yen has still got a little bit more gas left in the tank. If you remember when the BOJ had to intervene, the yen crosses were going absolutely parabolic, and we haven't got to that level of volatility like we did last year. So we have still got a little bit more gas left in the tank, more breathing room for cross yen. And it's probably worth noting where the yen bubble is as well. Where are we? There's the yen. The retail guys are very long yen and they're short Aussie. Right, that's pretty crazy. They're 93% long on yen. So that's from a retail herd perspective, it's quite bearish. Okay, and have to wait and see. So I imagine we break that, it's going to be pretty bad for the yen. So we'll have to wait and see. Let's take euro off. We'll look at Aussie. Note that the retail guys are short. They're short Aussie, but the net non-coms are also selling. So a bit of an interesting development there. Minus 56 to 61. So that's interesting. This doesn't really make too much sense because we saw a lot of Aussie strength, didn't we? So this is obviously lagging from Tuesday. It's an important thing to note is that this isn't updated data in real time. This is how the banks were exposed to a particular currency pair on Tuesday, and that's obviously some time away. This is from Tuesday the 13th, and how they were positioned. So they could have changed their mind since Tuesday, and we did see quite a lot of Aussie strength since, didn't we? So this might tick higher. I'd imagine it should. There's a trouble about the COT data. It is delayed. We have to remember that. It's like a caveat. Pound, let's see. Right, the pound. See, likewise, the pound really rallied, didn't it? So I think, obviously, we had a bit of a delay with the COT data. Likewise with the Aussie, I think this is going to tick higher on Friday. But we'll have to wait and see. There's obviously a very powerful document, the COT data, because it tells us how the banks and institutions are positioned. But on the downside, the drawback is that the delay in the data. So if you look at it now, if we had access to the data, I don't think this would be going negative. And likewise with Aussie. So I think this is going to probably retrace for this move. So I have to wait and see. It's kind of interesting. The pound off. Let's look at CAD. CAD is just chopping very much, and minus 38 to minus 36. Just a little bit range bound currently. in that high and that low. Um, there's the CAD yen long here. Right, see, we've got the crossover there. Not much to say about the CAD. It's just chopping really badly. CAD off. Look at gold. And we wanted that to hold, didn't we? Wonder if, yeah, it looks like that's going to be like a turncoat. We had a good gold trade on this week. Actually, it was really good. So it looks like this is like heavily delayed from what I'm seeing so far, because the way that gold reacted this week, we really rallied, didn't we? So this is obviously a significant week in the closing of the COT data report to present day. There's lots of changed, I think, since Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it was a busy week. We had a Fed as well, didn't we? And so this, I think, it was likewise with the pound and Aussie. It's going to have a little bit of a change on the positioning. Gold off, and then New Zealand dollar sideways, just below negative, minus 831 from minus 130, so just sideways. And likewise with the Swiss franc. Nothing's probably going to have changed here, I don't think. And I thought maybe we were going to have a breakout, but it looks like we're going back within this really crazy sideways chop again, minus 5,000 from minus 1,000. So it looks like there's a lots of delay that's happened, and don't forget we had a huge week as well, and lots of developments. And the Fed were going to pause. They did, and there's also a debate whether or not they're going to skip any interest rate hikes. The market saying that they're not gonna hike for the rest of the year, according to the dot plot. So obviously this was a big week from a forward guidance perspective. Are the Fed are going to increase their rates, or are they going to decrease, or are they going to pause? So it was a huge week, and because of that, I think, and we had the inflation data, we had a lot of change since the Tuesday. So I think when we come to look at the data next week, we're going to see those macro changes that were broadcast are going to be reflected on the COT data, because it was such a big fundamental week. I think we're seeing quite a lot of discrepancy between what we actually saw in price action and the COT data. So that's the problem. Like I say, there's obviously the drawback is the delay in the data, but the positive is that we can actually see how the net non-coms, the banks and institutions, and how they're positioned. So I think when we look at it next weekend, we're going to see some changes, and it might not be dollar positive, but we'll have to wait and see. So I'll speak to you guys tomorrow. Remember to trade safely and be careful with the yen. If we breach these supports, could get quite ugly, and we might have a BOJ intervention within a couple of weeks. So be careful, and I'll speak to you guys soon.